All right, welcome back to Real Estate Team Builders. This is going to be an awesome conversation. I have found the 1 out of 100 folks that have been through the ringer in real estate that is actually willing to talk about her journey from a very truthful perspective, building, a big business. I put quotes around it because it's what, and we'll get into the resource that we both use to do this here in a second without disrespecting anybody. But Jennifer Murtland, welcome to the podcast. And especially, before we hit record, let's just share your journey, right? How you sort of thought you were supposed to build the team and, what went well. But more importantly, I think we can learn so much from just a little bit of honesty from the folks that have been there ahead of us. So tell us like the minute version of you, and then let's get into like, okay, there I was hiring my first administrator and so let's get into the good stuff so people can really learn. But tell us a little bit about yourself and let's get into it.
Sure. Hey, Lars, thanks for having me on. So you want just like the short version?
Yeah, give your market, and we'll
okay.
get into all the good stuff. I already know where this is going. So you don't have to, sometimes podcasts, like it's the first 12 minutes is like, so then I left my corporate job and like, it's right. No, we're going to get right into it.
Right into it.
A minute to tell us about you, and then we'll get right into it.
Got it. Okay. So I actually started my career off as a wholesaler. I was not licensed. I used to wholesale short sales. That's a grind, man. Back in like 2008, 9, 10. Then I got my license and I'm in Cincinnati in Northern Kentucky. And I joined a small boutique brokerage, but then I went straight to Keller Williams, was there for 10 years, did my best effort at following the Red Book, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, had a big team, 12 people. I probably tried that about 6 different ways, 6 different times, and left Keller after 10 years, been at EXP for the rest of the time. So like 3 years, and building, I think my perspective has changed. And now I'm building a team that's like authentic to me, and it feels amazing. And my bank account is so happy. It was very sad. Amazing. It was very, very sad.
And the way that we're going to get into all of it, because I want to, I didn't mention this before we hit record, but the way that you view referrals.
Yes.
Coming from like not having it built a business where it was like overly profitable, it's straight profit.
Yes.
So we'll get into all that. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. We got to get into all the crap first.
Oh God.
So let's lay out all the crap as you look back on it. So
yes,
I remember when I was out there, first year in real estate, market shifted in 2007. I had left this cozy corporate job, got a little kid at home, all the stuff, and it's all burning and crashing around me. Yeah. And I listened to the book 12 times. 12 times.
The MREA book?
MREA, right?
Uh-huh.
And it doesn't really tell you how to do it. Like it kind of, but it doesn't. And
there's a chart, Lars. There's a whole chart that says, here's who you hire first in tier 1, and here's their job. And I was like, what? And I'm like, okay, here's your job. Do your job. And they're like, okay. It just doesn't. It's not feasible. I love the theory though, but it's like college, right? Like I took a ton of philosophy classes, a ton of psychology classes, and learned all these cool buzzwords and learned all the theories. And then you get out into the real world and you're like, wah, wah.
Yeah. How do you actually apply philosophy to like a real world situation?
Right. Well, on podcasts, it's kind of philosophical, but yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So let's get into like even just the lessons around, okay. For someone that wants to go down the leverage and systems and people route, what could you tell them? Like, let's unpack 2 or 3 hard times that, if you had to do it over again, you'd be like, don't do this, do this. What are a couple of those that come to mind?
Well, I think one of the first thing is about mindset. So for me, it was only that there was one way to have a team, and this was the way. And I think that when the book was written, which I don't remember the exact year, but when it was written, I think there wasn't really talk about teams. So I think that perspective of like, hey, you can leverage, I think was a cool idea at the time. But for me, when I was implementing it, it wasn't feasible. So for example, I went and I hired an assistant because I could sell, and it said the first hire is an assistant. Now, knowing what I know now, I would hire a transaction coordinator that's virtual, that I pay per file. Because my problem is I now am accountable for this person's salary. And I see a ton of agents make that mistake. And I also made that mistake probably 4 times, maybe 5 before I was like, you don't have to do it that way, but you never know what you don't know until you talk to other people that know more than you. And so it was like everybody around me, like at KW and most brokerages, they have like a list of who the top realtors are. And I was at the top for a while, not the very, very top, but the top. And I saw like, okay, well then I must know the most, right? Like who else knows more than I do? So I was like, this is how you're supposed to do it, but it's not, it's too expensive.
Yeah.
The whole thing is so expensive. And then you hire a buyer's agent, but then they want to list stuff. You're like, no, you are a buyer's agent. You only do buyers. And then you're like, where are all these buyer leads that I have to get? Now I have to buy buyer leads. And it's like, okay, now I'm paying salaries. I'm buying buyer leads. Now this buyer agent is asking me 1 trillion questions. So I'm not prospecting. Now we don't have any listings for the buyer leads. So now I have to pay somebody to manage this buyer agent and market our team. And it's like, okay, I'm responsible now for 5 salaries. And I'm not making more money. I'm losing money.
Yeah. So what's the lesson you would give, because I will say there is a right way to do it. And I painstakingly figured it out. And we're hundreds and hundreds of people through our system. But for you personally, knowing what you know now, and we're going to get to your approach on business now, which I think is amazing, because I do tend to be that guy that's like, okay, I've figured out this is the one way to do it.
There's a million ways.
Just meeting, I'm meeting more people that are like, now we have a different platform. Now you're in 3 countries. You couldn't have been in 3 countries on the other platform.
Right.
Gary will forever be in the Hall of Fame. So if you're hardcore KW and you love Gary, he is forever probably the top seat in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
But when he wrote the MREA, he didn't have 100 examples of $2.4 million teams that were netting $1 million where the team leader was not in production. I've had 1,000 conversations with team leaders and nobody has the right margins.
No,
and the
margins are terrible for that. The best margins that I've found, and when I do the math, is a team of 4 people. So like an admin and 3 people that sell. One of those 3 people being like the leader, I guess.
Yeah. So like 50 transactions, listings, mostly listings from the main person, a couple buyer agents, 80% buyers, they're
something
doing
like that.
Yeah. One, it's, bringing people in, but not knowing how to deploy them necessarily in a way that they can earn 10 times their salary. That's kind of our rule of thumb. If you're going to hire a $50,000 person, you only do it when you're making 500,000 GCI, and you can only hire your second person when you're at $1 million,
which is like impossible.
Yeah.
And if somebody is like that, where they're earning a lot of money, trying to keep them outside of an EXP platform where it financially makes sense for the time that you put in it's painful. Like it just doesn't, it's impossible to keep people. Once they're making a certain level of money, they're going to want to leave. And you as the team leader in most brokerages, that is a problem if they leave. So you don't want them to leave. But as a person and as a friend of theirs, and as most real estate agents, we're very giving, generous people. We want them to succeed and do better. But when they succeed and do better, there's no reason for them to stay with you.
Yeah, it is a total conflict of interest.
Exactly.
And they say you have to make your world big enough so they can fit in it.
Oh my God, that's crap. It's bullshit.
It really is, because most businesses don't have room for many people making, in my market, multiple 6 figures. And that's where a good agent on a team, they're already making that, but they could probably make that or more and not work as hard as we
doing less. Yep.
So
And that was like a hard conversation with one of my team members, because we were great as a team. Like we had 3 sales agents. We were a team of 4, just like I described. It was great. I was making a lot more money than when we were a team of 12. I was like, this is great. They were making money, but I was like, but for her, I was like, based on what her personal goals were, I was like, you are gone from your family more than you like. And in order to make more money, you're going to have to be gone more. And it just isn't going to work for you. Like, I want to keep you on the team, but it like doesn't make financial sense for you to be on this team. And it doesn't make financial sense for me to provide you resources for less.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had to break apart.
Yeah, they all leave. That's
They
the
all
sad
leave.
truth. And most of it's on good terms, but they
Yeah.
all leave.
But I think like for me, one of the biggest mindset shifts was I'm a child of the 80s. I had a picture of what success was. And success meant you're the boss, you're the HBIC, you know, you have this big, all these people like look up to you, you like have all this power and control and stuff like that, right? And that's kind of what the MREA book is. And I was like, that's it, that's successful. This is what it looks like. And you look around and there's only like 4 people doing it. And then you're like, well, wait a minute, I don't like managing people. I don't want to like all the customers to be like calling me. Like, I like to play and have fun. You know, I was like, this is not going to work. So I had to change my level, my idea and definition of success. And for me, success now is having money in the bank, traveling when I want and doing what I want, chasing pleasure, basically.
Yeah. And let's talk about it, you know, with respect to, and not to pick on Gary, because I'm sure he doesn't care and he's got a gazillion dollars, but there's one other
Good
example.
for him, man. He saw an opportunity.
There's one other example I'll use. So when he rolled out ESO, so his legacy was going to be expansion systems. You know, ESO was the expansion systems orientation. And there was an agent in my local market who, I mean, I saw his listings. He only had like 6 or 7 listings in this market, but he had expanded into like 12 other markets.
Yes.
And it was the most ridiculous thing ever.
So ridiculous.
And I remember this post. It was so sad. One day I saw a post on Facebook. He said, essentially, he's coming back to selling, you know, because he really misses working with clients.
Oh,
and I knew that all of these expansion locations had. And then Gary shares at a mastermind, you know, 7 years after ESO launched, that his core henchmen, it took them 7 years to make it work and be profitable. So you had all these people going out and just expanding, right? Using his footprint of franchises to expand. So when I think of that now, you know, versus, you know, the platform that we're on now, if you have a growth mindset, and this is not an EXP pitch, but there are easier ways to expand your footprint. So talk a little bit about that when you know, you view how much it sucks to have, you made no money, you had 12 agents.
Yes.
Now you're travel 6 months this year, you have 44 agents.
Yeah.
And talk about your referral strategy as well.
Yeah. So you're exactly right. We had an expansion team in our market that their total volume for all their expansions was my individual volume. I was like, what are you doing? You're spending so much money. You have to support these people with signs, lock boxes, like all the crap that real estate agents need, right? Plus your time and support people and blah, 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 like all this madness. So when we saw the EXP model, because I was actually traveling and I was still at Keller Williams. I was the productivity coach. It was pre-COVID, about a year before COVID. And I was like, hey, I can still be the productivity coach and travel. We just need to make all this crap online. So all this stuff was kind of headed there, right? And I think this was EXP was around, but I didn't know about them. So they were like, no, we can't do it. We have to, everybody needs to be here. I was like, nobody comes to the office. Nobody comes. So whatever. So I was like, fine, then I won't be the productivity coach. So I'm traveling, and we hear about EXP. And right now, so even while I was at Keller Williams and I was talking to real estate agents, because there's Keller Williams around the world, and I was talking to real estate agents in different markets, there was no real incentive for me to, I guess, like recruit them to come to Keller Williams. Yeah, we have profit share, and I still get profit share. But at EXP, it's like way more fun because you get revenue share. And I find like, if you know the difference between revenue and profit, it's a much bigger number, and it's more fun, and it's better for the agent.
And I'll ask KW agents, you know, about Keller Williams revenue share program.
Oh, right. They don't have it.
And they,
Yeah.
well, they don't, but I said, no, there is one person that has revenue share. Do you know who it
Gary.
is?
Yeah.
And they're like, no, we don't have it. I'm like, well, who's the only agent at Keller Williams that takes money off the top, regardless of whether your business is profitable or if the market center is profitable? Who's that one person? They're like, nobody. I'm like, well, we're the 3,000. I'm like, the 3,000.
Yeah.
6% of sales up to
Yes.
3,000 for 160,000 plus agents. So the model is awesome, right?
Yeah.
And now you've got 44 agents in 3 different countries, and I don't know how many states, but so tell us a little bit about, going back one step. Or no, actually your referral strategy. So building a well-run. So I'm not pitching real estate B school here, because we do teach how to run a really well-run real estate team, but it is not for everybody.
No,
it is not for everybody. But because of the way you run your business now, you'll do like 60 transactions.
Right.
You pick your profit on every transaction.
Yes.
You're like, yeah, I'll take 10% on that one. I'll take 50% on that one. So your blended profit now, you're not out with buyers and sellers. I'll let you tell the story, but I think your business model is brilliant because it fits into the way you want to run your business at this point. So talk about that a little bit.
So right now our team is me and a partner who was on my team before. So when he first came into real estate, I was his productivity coach. And then he was on my team for like 6 years before we came to EXP. We also have a transaction coordinator who gets paid per transaction. And then we have a VA, and we're getting ready to hire another VA. But now, so our business, I am really good at generating leads. And because we sold so many houses for so long, I mean, we were selling easily over 120 deals a year, me and him. So he takes care of the clients for repeat and referral business. He generates the leads through them, and then I generate new business. And I love it. I mean, it fills my soul. If I'm having a bad day, I get on the phone and call expireds and for sale by owners. Like, it makes me so happy. Which is weird, I know. But when I generate the lead, I don't want to service it. I'm like the worst customer service person in the world. Like, I'm good at the first relationship, and then like, I can't do the rest, So we'll refer it out. And it's great. It's a win-win, because most real estate agents do not know how to generate leads. They hate it, or they don't know how to do it, or they won't do it, or whatever it is, right? But I also know that they'll pay Op City 38%. They'll pay, referral exchange 30%. They'll pay all this stuff. They'll pay more than the 25% that most agents will ask for, right? So it's like, hey, I'll give you this lead. And depending on who they are, depending on what the lead is, if it's a listing, all day long, 50-50. There's no reason, even if it's in my market and it's a listing, given how the market is now, every single agent, I've never had an agent tell me no. Yeah. Because you should generate from your listing, you should generate an additional 3 deals that I'm not getting a part of. So you're welcome. And you get to keep the client. Yeah. But if you don't, I'm going to keep them and refer it back to you. Yeah, that's amazing. So I want to give you a chance to plug the podcast here for a second. And what's the focus of the podcast? The podcast is Real Estate Fight Club podcast. And our focus is like tactical things, like, should you use the bathroom during a showing? What did we do it on? You were on it. Yeah, we talked about the market, the shift, how the world is ending. Yeah, the shift storm. Yeah. That was the best. Yeah, I've been using it ever since. I loved that podcast. How to prep for the things you need to know now in the shift storm, I think was your topic. Yeah. Things like that. And so we fight, the co-host and I fight about different ways, because like you said, there's a lot of ways to do business. There's a lot of ways to be successful. You have to find what's authentic to you. Once you start living your authentic life, like why do you work? What's important to you? What's important to me is traveling, having fun. So how can I fill that with my work? I'm going to tell you what, it wasn't working 80, 100-hour weeks. That wasn't filling anything up. Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm trying to think of if I have any other questions. I mean, my big takeaway listening, and I think it's just with what you ended with, that's a lesson for me, is that, our work is here to serve our life. Yes. And it's just so often, it is totally reversed. Like a traditionally successful real estate agent, they're living a life that is not worth living. Like, I just knew if I didn't crack the code on leverage,
and I didn't build the business. I mean, we built it differently, but we built it in a way where we could still be in business.
Right.
You know, like I just couldn't do it on a day-to-day basis.
Well, and I still get to coach and train agents, but it's not, there's no like commitment. Like I'm the productivity, I was the productivity coach, or I had the agents on my team. And it was like, there was an accountability piece there. And it would upset me because most people do not do what they say they're going to do. And that is hard for me. And I was like, I don't really like managing people. And these people, this is their own business, right? So at EXP and the way we built it now, it's like, okay, if the guys from Portugal need help, like I'm going to Portugal in a couple months to like hang out with them, right? If they need help, like I'm there, we help, we have like calls and stuff regularly. But if they don't need help, then there's no like, well, what did you do today? How many leads did you get? You know, it's their business and they get around how they want.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Jennifer, this has been, I'll call you Jen now since we're on a, we're sort of a little
We're
closer.
friends.
I appreciate you just sharing your heart and what's worked for you. That's my dog chiming in. My dog really appreciated our time together as well. So if you guys want to get in touch with Jennifer, what's the best way?
My cell phone is 513-400-1691, or I'm Jennifer Murtland everywhere.
Awesome. Thanks, Jennifer. We'll talk
Thanks,
to you guys
Lars.
soon. Be good.